Well, yesterday was fantastic. We had a great session chatting in our speech parent support group about, which is our Facebook group. If you're not already a member, you're more than welcome to join us. We'd love to see you there. So if you head over to Facebook and search for groups and look for speech parent support for speech, language, literacy and feeding, and you'll come across that group. And if you just ask to join, and either myself or one of the other admins will approve you to come and join us. But anyway, it was a fantastic session talking about picky eating and children with restricted diets. And we talked about what we can do to actually help these kids. So one of the things that came up as a question, which I thought was fantastic, and that's why I wanted to actually create this episode today, was actually to address the difference between a picky eater and a problem feeder. Now, there's also a third group, which is just normal toddler fussiness and learning about food. Now, a normal toddler will, for example, have moments where they refuse a food. Sorry, itchy nose. They'll have moments where they refuse a food or they protest about meals or things like that. And it's more they're exerting their authority on the world. Now, that's not a picky eater. That's just a child who's learning to express themselves, and they're testing the waters and they're just seeing how far they can push boundaries. Picky eating is where children have a reduced range or variety of foods that they'll eat. Now, they'll probably still eat a large variety of foods, like 30 or more different foods, but it will be less than other children their age. They will sometimes lose foods or burn out on them because they've eaten the same food over and over again, but they usually come back to those foods after a two-week break or so. The next point is that they're able to actually cope with new foods, but they'll be reluctant about it. So, for example, they'll have a bite of a new food, but they won't necessarily eat a whole serving of it. They also, picky eaters still have a wide variety of foods across all of the different food groups. So they will eat at least one food from each food group and from each different type of food texture. For example, they'll eat some form of sloppy, mushy puree. They'll eat some form of a chewy food, some form of a crunchy food. They might have less in some of those groups than others, but they'll have at least one in each. And the same with food groups. They'll have at least one or two vegetables that they'll eat, one or two fruits that they'll eat. They might be picky about which ones they are, but they'll at least have a few in each category. They will often eat a slightly different meal to the rest of the family, but they'll usually eat with the family, and they'll at least eat some of the meal that the family's having. When you're introducing this child to new foods, they'll usually need quite a few presentations, but not heaps and heaps and heaps before they'll actually accept that new food. Now, if you compare that to a problem feeder, if you're thinking that your child might be a problem feeder, please seek professional help immediately. The reason being that problem feeding can be hugely stressful for you and your child, and it's really important that you get the right help and support as soon as possible. Now, problem feeders have a restricted range or variety of foods. They usually eat less than 20 foods, so 20 different foods, and often if they have a food that they absolutely love, that then they get stuck on, so they actually get sick of it and stop eating it, they don't readily reintroduce it. So that's a key one to look out for if you're thinking your child might be a problem feeder. They get very distressed and almost fall apart when they're presented with a new food. So for these children, seeing a new food is hugely stressful for them. They will have whole entire categories of foods or textures, so whole food groups that are missing out of their diet. They will also often eat entirely different meals to the rest of the family. So this is the child who may sit down for a meal with the family, but they will be eating an entirely separate meal. When you present a new food to a child who's a problem feeder, they will need lots and lots and lots and lots of repetitions and presentations of that food in a no pressure way before they actually start to even tolerate it, much less are actually able to eat it. Now, the key with, regardless of whether your child is a picky eater or a problem feeder, is that they probably need some support. So if you are looking for extra support in how to help your child, head on over to www.speechparent.com and you'll find there lots of different tools, resources, and some educational courses that can help you as a parent to be able to help your child with picky eating or problem feeding. The key though is that if your child is a problem feeder, please seek professional advice as soon as possible with a suitably qualified pediatric feeding specialist. So they can come from various health disciplines, but generally they are either an occupational therapist or a speech pathologist, and have done additional training specifically in how to help feeding disorders. So hopefully that's helped to be able to tell the difference between a picky eater and a problem feeder. If you have any more questions, please head on over to the website, email us, join us in the Facebook Speech Parent Support Group, and feel free to post questions there, and you'll not only get help from qualified speech pathologists and feeding therapists, but you'll also get lots of support from other parents who are struggling with exactly the same thing with their child. So talk, eat, play and learn. Until next time.